Welcome to the Dirty Lazy Girl podcast. I'm Stephanie Laska, best-selling author and creator of Dirty Lazy Keto.
And I'm Tamara Snezik, professor of sociology. We believe there are many paths, often unconventional, to achieve your goals. But we get stuck thinking we have to follow experts and fixed set of rules.
Well, as the leader of the Dirty Lazy Keto Facebook support group with over 200,000 members, I see people are hungry for a fresh approach, not just for weight loss, but to help live their very best life. Season 2 of the Dirty Lazy Girl podcast will provide lifestyle advice, lots of fun support, and practical tips to help you at home. Because you know what? You don't have to be perfect to be successful. Join us. I received a lovely email from one of our listeners. Her name is Shawnee, and I'm going to read it out loud. It says, Stephanie and Tamara, you inspired me to make a goal for 2020. So here is mine. For my me time, I go to a card making class once a month. I absolutely love it. However, I now have 2 drawers full of beautiful handmade cards. So I decided I would resolve to write an encouragement to someone different each month and actually put a stamp on it and mail it. I have already set a calendar reminder in my phone on the 1st of each month. I hope to send more than one each month.
Oh, what a lovely goal.
Love that, Shawnee.
I know. And then I heard from Stacy, one of our listeners. She says, I am so excited to start this new year and way of eating. I listen to your podcasts, and they are the best. They inspire me in all aspects of my life. My goal is to start showing horses again after 25 years since my kids are grown and gone. There, I put it in black and white. Good job, Stacy. Just writing it down.
Just writing it down. That's amazing. Well, you know what's interesting, Tamara? I know that our listeners are not alone. They all have these wonderful goals, just like Shawnee and Stacy shared. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering how the rest of our listeners are coming along with their goals. Do you think they're monitoring their progress?
I don't know. Are you monitoring your progress
on your goals? She's calling me out.
Because, if we're not monitoring our progress, it's really easy to get sidetracked and forget.
You're totally right.
Yeah.
I know. Well, maybe we should be the guinea pigs then for a minute.
Okay.
Why don't we remind our listeners what our professional and personal goals are?
Okay.
I think we shared those back in episode 22?
Yeah.
That was a while ago.
It was.
Season 1, actually.
Wow.
That was at the end of season 1.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Well, we better remind our listeners what they are. And then later we can do a temperature check to see how you and I are coming along.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my professional goal was to start a student support group for reentry and non-traditional students.
Love it.
So, and then my personal goal was to save up money to take a trip to London with me and my daughter. What were yours?
Well, mine, thanks for asking. My professional goal, as you might remember, I had a very lofty goal. I really want to help as many people as possible to fight obesity and all the related complications by just sharing my story and Dirty Lazy Keto with as many people as possible. And on a personal note, I want to eat more fresh fish. And every week.
Once a week?
Yeah, that was my original goal.
Okay. Well, I'm curious to know how we're tracking to our goals, Stephanie, but before we hear an update where we're at, let's take a quick break.
Perfect. Well, today's podcast is brought to you by my new book. It's coming out May 5th, and it's called Dirty Lazy Keto, Get Started Losing Weight While Breaking the Rules. It has a big red dot on the cover. After reviewing what to eat and why, you will find 10 full chapters devoted to helping you overcome obstacles in your path to success. You will find practical, effective tips by yours truly to help you lose the weight and keep it off for good. So links to order Dirty Lazy Keto Get Started and details for the free bonus gift are available at dirtylazyketo.com/books.
Nice. So, Stephanie, why is tracking so important?
Well, I think the biggest obvious one is that if you're not tracking, it's easy to just lose track,
Yeah.
right? I mean, most people that achieve their goal monitored their path to success, I would imagine.
Yeah. You're just more likely to be successful, right?
Totally.
And I think a second reason I think it's important, and this is not as obvious, is that it's a way to celebrate yourself and the progress you're making. So it can be affirming and positive, something to give yourself a boost of confidence, and ultimately that will help you stick to your goal as well. But we don't, think about those times when we need to like praise ourselves for our, for the job we do. So that's also a really good reason.
You're right. Because I know it's easy to think of it as work or a burden, but really you're just flipping it on its head and talking about celebrating each step.
Exactly. So it's not work. It's just recognizing how great you are.
It's fabulous.
Right.
Well, for me, I know when I'm tracking to my success, whatever goal it is I'm trying to achieve, just monitoring, it really helps me from burning out or quitting, or worse, losing motivation.
Exactly. It just keeps it in the forefront of your mind. Okay, so we know tracking is a great idea, but honestly, we don't often know how to do that. Like, rarely does someone say, oh, this is how you track.
Exactly.
So how do we do that?
Well, we're going to figure it out. Like, obviously, it's not as simple as one might think. So today we're going to explore 7 dirty, lazy girl tracking strategies that are practical and easy, and most importantly, lazy, to help our listeners monitor their progress.
Perfect. Okay, we'll start with number 1.
Number 1.
First of all, you have to figure out what you want to track. What should you be tracking, right?
What will you be tracking?
Yeah, what will you be tracking? And so you need to break your plan into baby steps and a clear path to reach each step. So what are you tracking? And then the overall goal, but then break it into little steps.
I like baby steps.
Yeah.
I think one time on our podcast, I shared some advice I got one time, which is ski what's in front of you.
Yes.
And for me, I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to get caught up in the, oh my gosh, I have to lose 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And then you freak out and don't want to deal with it. But if you say, no, all I have to do is eat a bag of celery right now.
Yes.
That's a lot more manageable.
So that was on, I think, episode 19, right?
That was a good episode.
Yeah. And also 20, where we talked about setting New Year's resolutions. So you can go back there to get a little bit more information on how to break it down.
And that was season 1?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Well,
how does that apply to you, Tamara? Like, you mentioned about your plan about having your non-traditional student meetings.
Yes.
Tell me like an easy baby step that you've accomplished.
Well, the first one was to find a place, meeting time and place.
Like logistics?
Logistics. And I figured that would be easy. That was the advice I've given before. Start with the easy stuff.
I like that advice.
Yeah.
That was actually one of my favorite tips.
I know.
Because you were like, design the cover.
Yeah.
Do the fun part.
Yeah, like the thanks. What do you do, the thanks at the beginning of a book?
Like the acknowledgement.
Yeah, the acknowledgement. Yeah, because that's the fun, easy stuff. And so I actually accomplished that.
Good
job. Pat myself on the back. I found a meeting place and a location, and I scheduled the room.
I like that you did that. That was simple and fast.
Yes.
And it probably helped you get more momentum.
It did. And it was like, oh, wait, I reserved that room. I can't not use it now.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, when I was trying to start one of my, my eating better, more fish. Mm-hmm. I know that's so goofy. I feel embarrassed sharing it.
No.
But it's true. Like, I really want to eat fish at least once a week. That was my plan. So I, too, made a plan. And I thought, okay, this is so easy. I can knock this goal out. Every Thursday, I'll go to the gym. I'll bring, a little bit of cash with me. And I'll stop by the supermarket afterward and buy the fish. So I'll just do that. And then my goal is over.
Okay. Awesome. So once you have your baby steps kind of lined up, I also recommend writing them down if you can. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Depends. But then you should publicize your goal. Publicize your goal.
So that's you're going to publish and you're going to publicize.
Whatever.
You're going to tell somebody.
That's number 2. So pick a place to publicize your goal. Okay, where can we publicize our goal?
Well, did you do that for your support group?
Yes.
Or your trip to Europe? Did you publicize it?
Actually, that was a step before finding the location, which I forgot about, which was to ask my department chair for permission to hold a group, make sure she was on board. So part of just telling her went from an idea in my head to I'm actually doing this. So telling her was part of publicizing it. And then I started telling my fellow colleagues, the teachers, saying, hey, I'm thinking about starting this group. Let me know if you have any ideas. So those were the two ways, the initial ways I publicized it. And then, of course, later I publicized it with the students. So
I think it makes it real.
It does.
When you, quote unquote, publish it. We're not necessarily saying you, take an ad out in the newspaper.
Right.
Or not like anyone does that anymore. But
it's just taking
you're acknowledging it. You're putting it in writing.
Yes.
It's on a sticky note. It's on a piece of paper.
Yes.
You said it out loud.
You put it on Facebook.
You said it on the podcast.
Yeah. It's also accountability. Like, once you've told someone, they could actually say, oh, hey, did you ever start that group?
That's why we're doing this, right?
Exactly.
It's it actually works.
Well, did you publicize your goals, Stephanie?
Well, it was funny when earlier this year when I said that out loud, when I finally figured out what it was I was trying to accomplish, it made saying yes to things a lot easier. So for me to publicize my goal, I ended up doing it as big as possible. So whenever I got options to do things like go on the NBC's The Today Show, or I even got an offer to go to Florida, and I was on WFLA, NBC Daytime, and Bloom, both daytime television shows. I went all by myself, and I did it, Tamara.
Wow.
I just kept saying yes. Okay. Okay.
Wow.
And I was so scared, but I went because I had publicized it to our podcast. I had told people. I wrote it on Facebook. So I felt almost obligated to follow through.
Yeah.
So it does work.
And you going on there publicizes your books. So
it's more about the message.
Yeah.
I really want people to realize there's another way of eating, and they don't have to feel bad about themselves.
Yeah.
So however I can get that message out, I'm going to do it.
And I think that's the way our listeners should do it. Whatever gets the word out and whatever gets it from your head to somewhere else so that it hardens the idea and makes it more real.
If you're saying you're going to go back to school, put it in your Christmas letter or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, pay off your student loans. By telling it out loud in any way, it makes it more likely to happen.
Yes. So that's number 2. Mm-hmm. Number 3,
create a timeline.
Yes.
This one's a little seems like it could be logical or even anal, but it doesn't have to be. It can be very creative.
Yeah. And it can vary depending on your project. I have to say, Stephanie, I'm failing at this one.
Oh no!
I know.
Tamara!
So I made my baby steps.
We're here to rescue you.
I know. I made my baby steps, but I never did a timeline. And partly it was well, it's going to depend on when the meetings are. And then once the meetings are, I'm going to, have to start publicizing. But then I kind of use the rationale I have to know X before Y. But I wish I had actually set a timeline because I think it actually delayed me from sending out those initial emails to students about it because I didn't really have a date. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
No, I do.
So I'm I'll send it.
Because it was it'll just happen because I want it to.
Yes.
I want to, buy a new car, so therefore it will happen. It doesn't happen like that, right?
It doesn't.
You have to actually break it down and say, today I'm going to look at the options. By next Friday, I'm going to get the loan or whatever it is you need to make your goal happen.
And the only reason I ended up doing it because I stopped and looked at the calendar. I'm we're only going to have a few meetings before the end of the semester. I better get going.
And better get moving.
Yeah, so I wasted some time. I made that mistake.
I think that's kind of normal, and I think everyone's fallen to that.
Well, what did you do? Did you make a timeline?
Don't beat yourself up, sister.
I know.
This is lazy girl.
Yeah, exactly.
We are a little bit lazy. Okay, this is what I did. I didn't make a timeline on paper or anything organized. I just kept saying yes to stuff in the future. Oh. So for me, that was the equivalent of a timeline.
Yeah.
So whenever I got asked to do a task, I would say, okay, but I wouldn't want to do it right away because that made me scared.
Yeah.
So I would say, yes, I can do that next month.
Yeah.
And I kept saying yes in 4 weeks or 3 weeks. Yeah. And unbeknownst to me, I was kind of making a timeline.
Yeah.
Without even knowing it. Yeah. But really, I was just too scared to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's one way of doing it when you're really scared. Just do it 4 weeks out. Yeah.
I've done that in the past with my weight loss.
And that'll give you time to get with the idea, get more comfortable.
You remember I said I did that with the dentist? I always go to the dentist on a Monday, so I can't cancel.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a lot of stuff. It's
a dirty, lazy strategy.
It's the dirty, lazy girl patented move. But it really does work. Like, for example, I signed up to do a Costco book signing, and I was terrified because it was in my community.
Yeah.
And I thought that was embarrassing. And I signed up for a Barnes & Noble book signing. I have a talk coming up at the library.
Yeah.
But I've scheduled them all in the future.
Yeah.
And on days where, like, I'm busy the day before, so I can't cancel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You know yourself.
I do.
That's a good one.
It's very lazy of me. But it works.
Well, once we've scheduled stuff.
Okay.
How then this is the meat of everything, how do we actually track it?
Well, number 4, how do we track?
Yes, number 4.
I mean, does it have to be all, military and Excel spreadsheet? Because I will not have that.
No, I won't either.
I hate Excel.
You can spend an hours just writing down your Excel sheet or whatever. So no.
Can I just do a handwritten note?
I would.
Phone
whatever
notes?
Works for you.
Yeah.
So, what's weird is I use, it depends on the thing. But like when I'm training for a marathon, I literally print out a training calendar and I stick it on the refrigerator and I cross it off with a pencil each day. Like, that's as old school as you're going to get, like crossing off a calendar on my fridge.
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I have a big chart in anticipation of our podcast, of course, because this is why we do it. To fix ourselves.
Yeah.
But I'm working on a new book, and I get overwhelmed by all the work I have to do.
Yeah.
So I made like a sticker chart.
Oh, nice. That's kindergarten.
Because I used to be a teacher.
Yeah.
So I made a sticker chart with colors and little dots, and every time I do a section, I get to put a sticker.
Oh, and is it working?
In my living room, just like you.
Front and center.
So it's publicized.
Yeah.
And then I'm embarrassed if I'm not working.
That's awesome.
I'm like, get up off the couch, girl. Get to work, Stephanie.
But it's funny, both of us went for more old school handwritten stuff, if that works. But, maybe you are more of a techie person. I'd say use electronic tracking, like there's your through your Fitbit, your Apple Watch or whatever, food logs, or electronic calendars. I actually use the electronic calendars for other things. Like I use the paper one, but for like my meetings and stuff. And then the great thing about electronic calendars is they can send you little reminders and you can tell them when to send your reminder.
I like that.
Yeah, they're great.
And what about for eating? If any of our listeners are doing a weight loss?
Oh my goodness, there's a bunch of really good apps, right?
Well, what ones have you used that you
like?
I've
used Fitness Pal.
Okay. A lot of people do that. They can enter their food on that.
Mm-hmm. My Bites is the one recent one I've tried.
Okay.
And then that's the 2 I've tried.
And what's that other one everybody talks about? The Carb Master?
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd think I would know that. But I'm dirty, lazy keto. So I don't use any of those trackers.
But even if you do...
But if you wanted to, they are available.
Yeah.
And they are helpful.
And you can make them work for dirty, lazy. You could. You can set the carbs at 50 if that's your dirty, lazy carb count.
You could definitely do that.
Yeah. They're great.
For me, just to tie it back to weight loss, because that was one of my goals for this year. Mm-hmm. For the lazy part, what I did when I was losing weight is I just kept track mentally, and even on maybe a scratch piece of paper, like counting up my carbs for the day. Okay, I'm at 20 or I'm at 25 or 30, and then I'd stop. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be so formal where you enter in every bite you eat, every graph, every calorie. Yeah. You don't have to do all that.
No. Some people need that, like I said, and some people are okay just doing,
you do you.
You do you.
But you have to track something.
Yes.
That's the point of our number 4.
Yes.
No one's forcing you to do anything. Right. If going on a social media site and sharing your pictures of your food, or sharing, oh wow, I scheduled my student meeting today.
Yeah.
If that's a method of tracking and publicizing, then do it.
I have to say, this is a creative one. My sister and I, we're not doing it now, but for a while, we would text each other at the end of the week how we did, or whether we stuck to it or not. And knowing that so it was both accountability, but also a way of tracking, because I knew I would report to her, okay, yes, I went over this much or not, whatever, and she did with me.
And tracking is a method of being accountable. So I love that. That's super effective, because you knew your sister was waiting for the text.
Yes. Because with those online apps, no one punishes you.
Nobody
if you don't
knows.
Fill it out.
Nobody.
But if you have a friend, you can say, hey, can I text you every week my carb count or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you can still lie, because
Then
sometimes I would still lie. Don't tell my sister.
That's just funny. Yeah. We're on to you. Well, I mean, the bottom line is whatever you manage whatever you monitor is what you manage. Yes. It's like a checking account. If you don't know how much money you have, you don't know what you can spend.
Yes.
So, just like our podcast here, I monitor how many downloads we get, because I want to reach, that's one of my goals, to reach as many people as possible. So I monitor every day, probably 3, 4, 5 times a day, how many downloads we're getting, and also reviews. Yeah. Because I want to read what our listeners have to say. Yeah.
It's a great way to track.
So, by the way, listeners, we are currently at 23 reviews.
Oh, nice.
I don't think we've ever asked our listeners to help us with that.
Yeah.
We would love it, listeners, if you would help us leave a review for our podcast.
Yes, please do.
And it's on Apple Podcasts is the only place that you can do that.
Nice.
They keep track. So it really helps us. It's free to do.
Yeah.
And then we know that you're out there.
Exactly.
Because we care.
Yay. Okay, number 5.
Yep.
Set a reward system.
Tamara loves prizes.
I do. I do.
You're always talking about, okay, if I do this, I'm going to get... I did my sticker. That's an example.
That's an example.
It's pretty small.
But that's enough for the little things. And then you can set a bigger one when you reach a bigger goal, maybe.
Yeah. I remember, losing weight. One of my goals was to go ice skating.
Aww.
And so I did that, midway through. Aww. So it can be activity-based. It can be an experience. It can be a prize. I've heard some people bought, Lakanto sugar.
Okay.
And then they could try some sugar-free or low-carb recipes.
Yeah, love that.
Or maybe, I don't know. What are some other rewards?
Well, if it's for a diet, I wouldn't make it a one that goes against your goals.
Right.
I'm going to go out and have, chocolate cake.
No.
You could have maybe a keto cake or something more in line with your goals.
Something that will help support you.
Yeah, and something that makes
you progress.
Yeah, or it just makes you a healthier, better person. Because there's a lot of rewards that do that, like getting a massage or taking a day off or something like that.
Something that encourages whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. So for my
and it has to motivate you though, right?
Exactly. So it's personal. What's going to make you happy and feel
me
good.
With the stickers.
Right. And so for mine, I said I was going to buy a book for myself to read for every step I completed. Uh-huh. I did that one time.
Oh no!
But
only once.
I know, and I've passed the second step, and I haven't bought anything for that, so I need to get on it because it is motivating.
It totally is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna challenge you, Tamara, and then I'm gonna ask you in a week. I'm gonna have you text me.
All right. Did you buy a book?
No, I want you to think of a book that you want.
Okay.
I don't want you to do the job. I just want you to think of the book that you want.
Yes.
And then let me know.
Okay, well,
text me later.
Okay, I'm excited.
Because once you know what it is you want, that's easier to work for the prize.
It's totally so much easier, and I love to read. So yeah, but I want to think about what good book I want to read.
Then it might change things.
Yes.
It makes it more fun.
It does.
I know we've talked about our kitchen hoarding in the past, Tamara.
Mm-hmm.
I keep calling you out. I'm embarrassed. But you know what? I like little gadgets. I know that was something that we were talking about, made you laugh. Yeah. And I like to have my kitchen really tidy and clean.
Yeah.
But I think I've mentioned to you, my husband likes everything out.
Yeah.
And so we struggle. But I decided to buy a giant baker's rack for my kitchen, and I organized all of my kitchen stuff so I can see it and I can get to it, and I'm not digging around looking for it. So I spent a bunch of money on this stupid rack that's really ugly. Everybody can see it. It's 6 foot tall, and all of my kitchen stuff is on it.
Well, if it works.
But it motivates me, Tamara.
Does it?
Yes.
For your cooking,
it's
cookbook?
Motivating me for more cooking.
Yeah, because then you see it.
I can find the stuff is really the issue. It makes it convenient for me.
Yeah.
So for me, the reward was to get little organizational strategies to help me be a more efficient, faster cook.
Yeah.
And so that's my share.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so after we get our reward system and give ourselves rewards, which is what I need to work on, number 6 is we need to reevaluate.
reevaluate.
Yes. So if you're having a hard time making progress or even, failing at some parts of it, you can look at your goal a little bit closely and either modify or revisit it or change things around.
That's kind of like what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Hello!
Yeah,
we are monitoring and evaluating.
Yes.
So when we did this podcast, Tamara, I realized my goal of eating fish every week, I'm not going to do it. It is not going to happen. It is way too aggressive.
Okay.
It's way too expensive. I went the other day to buy the damn fish because we were going to do the podcast. The fish was $13, Tamara, for 2 pieces.
Yeah, that's expensive.
I'm not going to pay $13. I'm sorry, I'm very cheap.
Yeah.
We've shared the cheapness of Stephanie. But it's just not practical for me, Tamara, to buy $13 worth of fish for one dinner for 2 people once a week.
Yeah.
So I'm going to modify my goal.
Okay, what are you going to do?
I'm going to say once a month.
I think that's fine.
And then I can do frozen fish, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm still cooking.
Yeah.
But the expensive fresh fish,
Yeah.
I'm modifying, and I'm okay with that.
I think it's great.
I'm proud of my modification. I am not a failure.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm not a failure. I am proud that I reevaluated now here in March.
Yes.
So that I can actually get to goal.
Yes. I think that's great.
That's the point, right?
Yes. And so what? Okay. And let's say maybe you actually need to completely change the goal, not even modify it.
Like what?
Well, if you realize your goal is just too much, and that happens. Like you'll set a goal, and this didn't happen with me. Well, actually, maybe it had the trip to Europe. Oh. So and that's going well, and we're getting through all the steps. But now with the, coronavirus, we may have to rethink the trip.
You might have to modify that goal completely.
I might have to just switch it to next year. I mean, we're on a wait and see, basis, but. Which is sad.
It's totally sad. Just like me not buying my fish is sad.
But
I'm
happens.
So proud of you. Life happens.
Life happens. You get sick. You realize you overshot. Like the fish was just too much for you. So what?
That's okay.
Yeah. Just revise.
Reevaluate, revise.
Or change your goal. Whatever you need to do.
But that's part of the process of tracking and being accountable to yourself.
Yes.
It's being honest. And you're not a failure.
Yes.
It's just you're having to be realistic sometimes and re-strategize.
Yes. I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I also had to do that with my student group because we had our first meeting and Stephanie, almost no one showed up.
What do you mean almost no one?
One person showed up.
One person is good.
What we realized was that the day what I realized is that non-traditional students are incredibly busy. They have kids, work, families.
Yeah.
And so now I'm just saying, okay, we're going to try a different strategy.
Look at you modifying and reevaluating.
To find a way to reach them.
Perfect.
Yes. So, listeners, let us know how you track success. What works specifically for you? Tell us your story by emailing Stephanie@dirtylazyketo.com or via Facebook or Instagram @dirtylazyketo. And listeners, do you have a business you'd like to advertise on the Dirty Lazy Girl podcast? Let's talk. Get in touch for more information. Before we go to our final hack, let's take a final break.
All right, listeners, the pre-order bonus gift is back. To help you track to goal if you are trying to lose weight, the fridge magnet is here to help you. And what that is, listeners that pre-order their copy of the brand new Dirty Lazy Keto Get Started Losing Weight While Breaking All the Rules will receive a free Dirty Lazy Keto color fridge magnet of the food pyramid while supplies last. That will help you make great decisions about what to eat, how to snack, and just a recommendation of how to spread out your carbs for the day to help maximize your weight loss. Links to pre-order the new book, Dirty Lazy Keto Get Started, with the red dot on the cover, are available at dirtylazyketo.com/books.
Excellent. So, now we're going to get to our final hacks.
I almost feel like this is like our giant Band-Aid, like our Dirty Lazy Girl Band-Aid. We got to come up with, maybe our listeners can help us with a creative title for this last section.
For the hacks?
Yeah, we need like a fun title for this.
All right.
Because I love this part.
Okay.
So my final advice, listeners, and I mentioned this earlier, but to expand on it, is to do what works for you. Like, don't feel pressured to follow what everybody else is doing. I mentioned that I absolutely hate using apps and food diaries to write down what I eat. Whenever I have those around, they cause me to rebel. I lie and I cheat from myself, mind you, when I try to use those. So once I realized that I could lose weight with a much lazier method, which I talk about more in my book, I finally got off the weight loss merry-go-round. And I'm happy to say, for the first time in my life, I have a much more positive relationship with food.
That's awesome. My hack, Stephanie, is to quantify your goal. So what that means is put a goal in numbers if you can, or something you can measure. And the reason I say that is because people do a lot better. It's easier to track, and people do a lot better tracking and stay focused when there's numbers involved. So for instance, if weight loss is your goal, decide on a number of pounds you want to lose, or a dress size you want to get to. Or if you have a fitness goal, you might want to quantify it, like, oh, I'd like to, like right now, I can't even do one pull-up. If I could just do one pull-up, I would be like in heaven. So, or running, you could do a 5-mile run, or, whatever it is, put it in numbers so that you can tick it off each number as they go by. That will make your tracking more fun and more successful.
I love that. Well, the bottom line is, Tamara, all of us, you and I and our listeners, we all want to be successful. But the truth is, success does not just happen, right? You can't just be like ultra lazy and just watch it go by. It really does take planning and hard work. But that work doesn't have to be burdensome. Mm-hmm. It can feel very rewarding and even fun when you track your victories. These strategies that we shared today are designed to help you find dirty, lazy ways to be mindful and celebrate your awesomeness, because you are awesome, and we want you to track your amazing accomplishments. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dirty Lazy Girl podcast.
And don't forget to visit dirtylazyketo.com, where you can join the conversation and gain access to all kinds of free content to help you on your dirty lazy journey.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, consider supporting us by subscribing, rating, and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts.
Be sure to stay tuned for our next Dirty Lazy Girl podcast, where we give you even more tips and support.
You don't have to be perfect to be successful.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.